We are about to go live on your newest online station, Paisley Radio.
Right, ladies and gentlemen, joining us now here on Paisley Radio, it is the one and only prestigious one, Joe Hendry. Joe, how are you?
I'm doing very well, thank you.
How are you coping with this current pandemic, especially being a wrestler?
It's a unique situation. It's an unprecedented situation, and my heart goes out to everyone in the Ring of Honor locker room, everyone that works hard behind the scenes, all the people in the office, all the all of our technical staff and people that help with events, and everyone. My heart goes out to them, and also everyone in the industry as well. It's a tough time just now. What I will say is I'm feeling very thankful and fortunate to be the Ring of Honor right now. They're really taking great care of everyone, and they're really supporting us throughout this time. So I'm feeling very grateful and thankful.
Yeah, that's true. I saw the other day, one of the female wrestlers had tweeted, said that they got their check even though the show hadn't gone on. So it just shows just how well Ring of Honor are looking after their stuff, especially after the dark day the other day with the amount of talent that got released from, Titan Towers, I recall it.
Well, I can't and wouldn't comment on any other.
That's fair enough.
Companies or anything, but all I can kind of do is speak on my own situation and feel very fortunate.
You've had quite an illustrious career for someone so young in wrestling. Trained by Killian Dane, you've done ICW, Next Gen Wrestling, What Culture, World of Sport, Impact, Ring of Honor. You've travelled the globe quite a bit. Which one of them companies that you wrestled for taught you the most?
Taught me the most. That's a really. It would be impossible to say right now because you're. That's the thing about the wrestling business. No matter what level you're just always learning, and it's different lessons. So, for example, the lessons that I learned in ICW or in What Culture are very different to the lessons that I'm learning now in Ring of Honor. And it's for and they're relevant to different points in your career. The thing that's always been a constant for me is I'm always trying to get to that next level. I've just had this thirst for being successful in the industry, for getting to that next step. So, and I feel, Ring of Honor has been amazing for that because I'm, getting to already, I've had the chance to work with, I'm working with Dalton, former world champion, been working with, we've worked with Jay Lethal and Jonathan Gresham, with, the Briscoes, with, Matt Taven, with it just Shane Taylor, and the list just goes on and on. There's just, and again, I'm missing people out here, but it's an amazing locker room. It's an amazing roster. And Marty as well, getting the chance to work with him as well. It's absolutely stacked. And those are names that I've had the chance to work with already in the short time that I've been there. So, you can't ask for better than that,
I've always said Jay Lethal is probably one of the most underrated wrestlers, especially for helping new talent out, because the amount of things he does to get the people over is phenomenal.
Yeah, Jay is, he's Ring of Honor's franchise player for a reason,
With that being said, with all the titles you won, with ICW, the Tag Championship, What Culture, you were the champion, the Internet champion. Which championship holds the most unique memory to you?
I think the most significant championship I've won is without doubt the What Culture champion, because at the time it was, without doubt, it was the biggest promotion in Europe. Yep. And, that was, I got the chance to, work with Kurt Angle. I got the chance to work with top talents all over the world with What Culture. We went to, Germany and Canada as well as the UK. And, I had I feel a significant run there and, learned a lot. And I felt that I was able to really step up and hold my own. So that meant a lot to me.
What Culture was a phenomenal independent company that done really well. Like I say, you had the likes of Kurt Angle, you had Drew McIntyre, Drew Galloway there. There's a number of others. It was a shame what happened. With the way the world is currently at the minute, and hopefully all touch wood, all going well, within a few months, everything's slowly gets back to what it used to, I won't say normal because nothing's going to be normal again, but gets back to used to, do you think wrestling, it will take quite a while for it to build back up again?
I don't actually. And the reason I don't is because when you take something, sometimes you don't realize how much you love something until you take it away. And wrestling's been taken away from people.
Yeah.
And people love wrestling. You know, I remember before I got into wrestling, it was my escape. It was the thing that kind of, you know, just let me forget about all my problems and just, you know, escape for a little while and enjoy myself. And people need that. And yes, wrestling is still there, but there's nothing like that kind of live atmosphere. And I think when we're ready to go again, people are going to be really invested and excited in what we're doing. And I think basically there's a reason, you know, I was very fortunate that before this all kicked off, I invested most of my money into buying gym equipment. So in my house, you know, my spare room is just, you know, barbells and benches and stuff like that, because the thing is, I have no doubt that when this is all over, we're going to be off to the races. And I think the demand is going to be, you know, as high as it ever was, if not higher.
That's quite an important point. You point to that there, that I think a lot of wrestlers would probably be spending quite an investment in gyms, because I don't think the people realise, the fans, that as soon as, like you say, everything reopens again and wrestlers hit the road again, they've got to be back in their top physique straight away, which is quite a tough thing to do.
Yeah, it's very challenging for people to stay in shape right now. You know, it's like I say, I'm running some online classes I've got a wrestling school, so I'm running some online classes with my students to do the absolute best that we can with body weight and resistance bands. So, you know, everyone's having to get really creative for those who aren't fortunate enough to have their own lifting equipment, but it can be done. And for anyone looking, you know, who's in wrestling to kind of further their position in the business, this could be the time to really invest in going the extra mile.
And what's your wrestling school, and where can people find it?
So it's basically at edinburghwrestling.com. Obviously we won't be doing anything for a long time. Until this comes back. But right now, keep an eye there. But right now, my focus is just kind of helping the students that we've got right now with online stuff. But we will be looking to, when this is all over, we'll be looking to accept new students and stuff.
We've got a few questions that we've asked people to send in, and the first one, I do kind of get it, but I think it'd probably be a lot easier for yourself, a wrestler, to explain. So the first question is, why is Scotland overlooked when it comes to British wrestling scene? You would think with Drew McIntyre, WWE champ, Nikki Cross, tag team champ, Joe Hendry, Joe Coffey and Grado, all household names, so why isn't Scottish wrestling first to be mentioned on British wrestling?
I wasn't aware that was the case. I mean, is that the case? Do you think Scotland's overlooked?
I don't think it's overlooked, but at the same time, I don't think it gets the credit it deserves for the amount of stars it produces.
I hear you. I think that, you know, when I got into the business, I was very fortunate in the time that I got in. You know, it was when ICW was just really kind of, really on fire. And everyone around that time, like, you know, people you just mentioned, you know, there was a lot of talent, coming through at that time. Yeah. And I was really fortunate to get into the business at that time. But yeah, I think the thing with wrestling is it's like the cream always rises to the top, and all you have to look at is the caliber of talent that Scotland produces. So Scotland, in my opinion, more than holds its own on a world stage in terms of wrestling nations.
Perfect. Question 2. Hi Joe, I'm just starting out in wrestling. I struggle badly with anxiety and I feel this will hold me back. Is there any help or advice you have to help me and others with anxiety?
Well, I mean, believe it or not, anxiety is something that I, have encountered and been dealing with my entire life, and I think that you'll find a lot of wrestlers are the same. When you do a job like this, it's the highest highs and the lowest lows, and I think it does tend to attract people like myself and many others that I know who maybe do experience issues with anxiety and stuff like that. I do have a few pieces of advice. One is to know that, when you're watching wrestling on TV and you're seeing, these larger than life characters and, this kind of unparalleled confidence, understand that a lot of them might be going through what you're going through as well. They've just learned to kind of manage it and put it to one side for a moment. And I think anxiety is something that you can always work on. There's always things that you can do to improve the situation. I think when people, for example, a lot of people, I think if you really invest time in trying to, get a routine, I think for me, that is the thing that has made the single biggest difference. I actually feel, in recent times, I've felt a lot better the last year or 2 years than I maybe had before. And I think largely that's due to having a routine. So in a situation like this in lockdown, my advice would be have things that you do every day. So for me, usually I'll get up and I'll read for a little bit, then I'll take the dog for a walk and I'll work out,
Yeah.
And if I do all those three things, then I've kind of achieved my goals. And then above that, if I can put out some content or write a blog for Ring of Honor or do something like that, that's a bonus. So get yourself a routine, set some goals that are achievable, but also a lot of my anxiety came from, this person achieved this by this age and I've only done this, or I've not done that. I was really hard on myself, and I look at the things that I've done, and I know a lot of people would look at what I've done and say, they'd like to do that. But then there's people who I look at and go, I wish I'd done that. And I think part of it is kind of realizing that all you can do is your best. All you can do is give it your best, and realize that life is short. So you have to go for your goals and, go for your passions, but also realize that life is longer than you think it is as well. And not everything has to come instantaneously to you. So give yourself some space to figure out what it is that you need to figure out in terms of what, dreams or goals that you want to pursue. But also, here's one final thing I'll add. I'm giving a detailed answer because it's
quite a personal, tough question, yeah.
And I think for me, one thing that I'm very bad at, and one thing that has improved my life, is actually saying, it's okay to do absolutely nothing for a while. I used to have this guilt about not being, if I didn't do X, Y, and Z all the time, I'm not being productive. But then what happens is over time, you completely, not only do you become worse at what you do by being completely obsessed with what you do, because you lose a bit of perspective. So at the end of the day, we're trying to entertain fans. And to do that, we have to put ourselves in the eyes of the viewer, or in the eyes of the audience. And to do that, to relate to the audience, we need to be one of the audience. We need to know what that feels like. So we need to consume the culture that they watch. We need to have the conversations they have. We need to watch the TV shows that they have, and just know that actually just chilling out and spending time with people and having a laugh and a giggle is actually going to pay positive dividends to whatever product it is or goal it is that you're doing. So there you go.
I think there were some really excellent points there, especially with a routine. Keep yourself busy, not putting too much peer pressure on yourself. And the last one there, of taking a step back and not do nothing. And even if you just go to a wrestling show and watch it, just to feel what the fans are feeling, just to see it from their eyes.
One last thing is be yourself. Be yourself and trust your gut. At the end of the day, you'll know if something's right. But if let's say you're trying to be a wrestler and you do something because other people tell you it'll be great and you'll do this, and don't get me wrong, you got to listen to people, but every so often you have to go with what your gut says, because if you go with what your gut says and you're wrong, then you can go, you know what, I was me, and I'll go out on my sword and I'll try again next time because I did what I thought was right. Whereas if you try and change what you're doing just to fit popular opinion, or to, just because, if this person said this, it must be right. Now, I'm not talking about advice. That's a different thing. You've got to absorb advice. But when it comes to making creative decisions, you have to trust your gut. And just know that if it doesn't go quite how you thought it would, hey, you tried. And the product you put out was you. But what you will find is if you find something entertaining, chances are other people will too. I've always had most success when I make stuff that I would want to see, when I wrestle the way I would want to wrestle, when I do stuff that I would want to watch,
Yeah.
What you do isn't going to be for everybody. Just know that there's going to be a portion of the fan base or whatever that you don't appeal to, and that's okay. The moment that you try to appeal to every single person, you lose what it is that makes you special. Steer into your niche and embrace the fandom that comes with it.
That's absolutely perfect. That's probably the best answer that's ever been given. Question 3. Back in 2016 at Defiant Wrestling, What Culture refused to lose. You faced Kurt Angle in a brilliant match. First, how was Kurt Angle? Was it easy to talk to before the match? And second, how much did you learn by being in the ring with Angle?
Okay, so I always tell people my career is before Kurt and after Kurt. When I wrestled Kurt, it changed me as a wrestler because I realized what intensity actually meant. People say Kurt Angle's intense, but you don't know what intensity means in the wrestling business until you've wrestled someone like him. And here's the thing. All Kurt Angle was concerned about was what he could do to help me, to elevate me. That's what his goal was. It wasn't about him. He was thinking, what can we do to help Joe get to the next level? And that's what real true top talents do in the business. They try and raise other people up so they've got people to work with or to leave the business in a better place than it was. Kurt Angle is one of the greatest people I've ever had the pleasure of meeting or working with. Not only that, he's amazing for career advice and stuff like that. And, you know, I am where I am, and a lot of it's to do with career advice that Kurt Angle's given me.
That's quite beautiful, because when we spoke to Kurt a few years ago, we interviewed him, and he was saying, you know, the gold medals he's proud of, all the titles he's won, yes, he's obviously proud of, but he's more proud of the amount of wrestlers he's put over and helped their careers than any title he's won.
Yep. He's 100% genuine when he's saying that, because I'm telling you from first experience, that's how nice a guy that Kurt is.
Beautiful, man. Right, question 4. Heel or babyface? Which one do you prefer? And which one do you feel more comfortable playing? And then it's got P.S. Me and my mates always clap twice once your entrance begins.
I think the most important thing that you have to do is be yourself and let yourself come through. And that's the thing. I think, you know, when I'm a bad guy, it comes a lot more naturally to me. And I know that's weird because a lot of people know me for my entrances. But before I did the entrances, I was a bad guy for years, you know, that kind of built up to that point. So I probably learned most about wrestling being a bad guy. And who doesn't like being a bad guy?
Well, that's true. And the last one is, this one was from Dan in Sunderland. He said, is it true you have a master's degree in business?
Yeah, I've got a first-class master's degree in business and marketing. And I just hate talking about it, you know. I just hate it when people put me over like that. It's just, you know.
Well, that's all the top questions we got sent in, because some of them were more or less very similar to the same.
Yeah.
The one I have, though, I'll have one last question to fire at you. Do you think it's, I'd say probably a lot easier now for girls and boys to get into wrestling than what it was when you first started out, with all the help that's available and all the stuff on the internet?
It's easier to get in, but I actually would argue, up until recently, I think it was actually much harder to get over than it maybe was for someone in my position, because when I got in, it was kind of just getting hot on the UK scene. You know, it was just heating up again, so I was really fortunate. Whereas now there's so much talent out there. Everyone's great. You know, everyone's great in the ring. So it's really what I'm trying to tell people is having big characters is how to differentiate yourself in today's day and age, because a lot of wrestling is the same, you know, when you're kind of getting into that entry level. So that's one way to differentiate yourself. But actually with what's just happening with kind of lockdown and stuff like that, I think the industry will kind of, for those entry levels, it will somewhat reset. So I'm telling my students, look, if you guys, you know, show up, if you guys come out of this, you know, looking like $1 million and, you know, in great shape with fully developed characters, then, you know, you're ready to be put on a poster and to be given opportunities. Yeah. You know, so I actually think that when the industry comes back, it will be a good time for people to do that.
Definitely. Joe, thank you very much for your time today. We really appreciate it. We wish everybody all the best for wrestling when it reopens, hopefully in the foreseeable future, with Ring of Honor and every other company out there. To all the wrestling fans out there, please, if you've got a favourite superstar currently at the minute, go buy one of their T-shirts at merchandise, because it goes a long way at this current moment in time.
And absolutely. Also, head over to Ring of Honor's website and head over to the Pro Shop and get yourself the R.O.H Strong t-shirt as well. That's a t-shirt that Ring of Honor are putting out to raise money for charity. And also it's just a great way to support the company who, because they are supporting us,
Perfect. Well, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. That was Joe Hendry. Joe, thank you very much for your time.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
This is Paisley Radio, broadcasting from paisleyradio.co.uk.